Let me warn you in advance that there's going to be quite a bit of profanity in this particular video. So if you have sensitive ears or sensibilities and you can't handle some profanity, I suggest that you stop watching this video now. Okay. The rat bastard Grecian formula goatee dying motherfucker David Clarke is a coon ass piece of shit that needs to be permanently removed from mainstream media. Alright, you might say those words are harsh. And you know something? They're right, and they deserve it. This guy takes every opportunity to denigrate the black community. He blames all of the problems and issues on black people themselves. And in lieu of that, then he turns around and wants to blame the quote-unquote Democratic Party, the liberal media, etc. But he fails to lay any blame on the actions of police and party officials. Now, this guy blames the Democratic Party, but he's a Democrat. And I believe that this guy got a hard-on for the Democrats and black people in general when he lost a bid to become mayor of Milwaukee. He is a known Black Lives Matter hater, but has never wanted to sit down and talk to them. And there's a large branch of the Black Lives Matter movement up in Milwaukee. So he's basically loves talking out of his ass. Now, I'm gonna read an article regarding this prick and his blaming of the Milwaukee violence on tribal behavior. Unapologetic and blunt, Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clarke has won legions of supporters on the right with his frequent commentary that slams Black Lives Matter and other liberal groups. As violence rolled Milwaukee this weekend, Clarke took to Twitter chiding the left and black activists whom he derides as Black Lives Matter. Clarke, who's African American, raised his national profile recently with his speech to the Republican National Convention and his vigorous defense of law enforcement, although he's not a registered Republican. The sheriff is no fan of Democrats either, often blaming them for creating misery-induced, divisive, exploitive, and racist urban policies. Clarke hasn't been shy about his views on the turmoil in the city of Milwaukee after Saturday's police shooting of an armed black man named Seville Smith. He called protests that turned violent black cultural dysfunction. In an opinion piece he wrote for The Hill, he likened the chaos in Milwaukee as tribal behavior. What happened Saturday night and again Sunday night had little to do with police use of force. It was a collapse of the social order where tribal behavior leads to reacting to circumstances instead of waiting for facts to emerge, Clarke wrote. The law of the jungle replaced the rule of law in Milwaukee Saturday night over an armed career criminal suspect who confronted police. He described the urban black poor as victims. The actions were the manifestation of a population with no hope, no stake in the American dream that could provide advancement and purpose and pride of self. They are the ones lied to, exploited by, and ultimately manipulated by the Democrats who claim to care. They are victims of the left, but they are not without blame. Clarke then tweeted, failed Democrat progressive liberal urban policies create ghettos like Milwaukee that erupt into violence at the most inane provocations. This is a guy who wanted to be the mayor of Milwaukee. His anti-police rhetoric is sweeping the country. Since 2002, Clarke has been the sheriff of Milwaukee County. Now in his fourth term, he has won each election by a wide margin of victory. The suburbs where he serves is more heavily white than the city of Milwaukee, which has its own police force. He lost a bid to become Milwaukee mayor in 2004, and that's why, in my opinion, he's got a hard-on, because the black people saw through his ass and did not want to make them the Milwaukee the Milwaukee mayor. In July, Clarke had a heated interview with CNN's Don Lemon over the police shootings in Baton Rouge, Louisiana that killed 3 law enforcement officers and wounded 3 others. He told Lemon that he had predicted the police officers would be targeted. This anti-police rhetoric sweeping the country has turned out some hateful things inside of people that are now playing themselves out on the American police officer, he said. Clarke has frequently blamed the Black Lives Matter movement for inspiring violent crimes against law enforcement officers, calling the groups purveyors of hate. That's bullshit, because, you know, if he bothered to do any research whatsoever, he would see that the overall agenda of the Black Lives Matter movement is merely to hold police accountable when they break the law. Okay. Maybe there's something else going on here. Maybe this guy is trying to curry favor because his ass is in trouble. Sheriff Clarke has been ducking and dodging for the last 2 years a lawsuit, a federally filed lawsuit against him and 4 deputies that covered up police misconduct by one of his officers. Sheriff Clarke's been accused of a cover-up along with 4 of his deputies in a federal civil rights lawsuit, and it started when Fox 6 investigated an accident, and it since has garnered national attention. A sober driver, again, let me repeat that, a sober driver was arrested for drunk driving in February of 2013, and she's the one that is the plaintiff in the federal lawsuit. When a sheriff's deputy T-boned her car in 2013, Tanya Weicker suffered more than a broken neck. She suffered the indignity of a false arrest for driving while intoxicated. She's, as I stated, she's the one that has filed a federal civil rights lawsuit. Ms. Weicker's constitutional rights were violated very severely, as per her lawyer, John Erickson, out of Chicago. With Riker standing silently at his side, her lawyer, Mr. Erickson, on Tuesday, July 8th of this year, announced the filing of a federal lawsuit against Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clarke and 4 of his deputies. The sheriff is responsible, Erickson said. The lawsuit comes 2 months after Fox investigation showed Sheriff's Deputy Joseph Quills T-boned Riker's Toyota Camry and then lied about who caused the crash. Weicker, the plaintiff, admitted to having a few sips of a friend's drink that night and nothing more. Her injuries were too severe to perform field sobriety tests. Sheriff's Deputy Scott Griffin arrested Weicker anyway and cited her for driving drunk, even though blood tests would later prove Weicker, pronouncing that correctly, Weicker had no alcohol or drugs in her system. I explained to him my eyes were red and glassy because I was crying, Weicker told Fox 6 investigator Brian Paulson. Erickson says his client was treated like a criminal as she laid in a hospital bed in pain. She had to ask for permission to use the restroom in front of a deputy who was keeping watch on her, her attorney said. Fortunately, there was video from an airport surveillance camera, and that eventually proved that Deputy Quills never stopped before turning onto Howell Avenue as he claimed in his report. So he lied in his report, okay? But there was video, which thank God, for video. He was shown to be a liar. The sheriff's office knew about the video 2 days after the crash, but the drunk driving case continued for 10 months before a prosecutor finally decided to file formal charges. A video that exonerated Ms. Weicker was sat on for months and months until the good work of Fox 6 News uncovered it, Erickson said. The lawsuit filed in federal court accuses Sheriff Clarke, Deputy Quills, and 3 other deputies of engaging in a cover-up of Deputy Quills' role in causing the crash by falsely arresting Weicker for driving while intoxicated. It accuses Sheriff Clarke of having a de facto policy of concealing and suppressing officer misconduct through what the lawsuit terms a code of silence. The lawsuit seeks unspecified damages for Weicker. She, all her life, thought that the law enforcement personnel were here to serve and protect and to tell the truth and be on the side of good and go after the bad guys. She never expected that the bad guy would, in fact, be law enforcement, and specifically Sheriff Clarke. Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clarke has never been shy about speaking his mind in front of a television camera until now. After giving Sheriff Clarke months to sit down for an interview, Fox 6 News finally had no choice but to approach him at a campaign stop when he came to Serb Hall in June for Senior Fest. Brian Polson of Fox News 6 spoke to Sheriff Clarke and asked him if he could have a minute to get a few comments. Sheriff Clarke told him not really. Polson then said, "I'd like to talk to you about Deputy Joseph Quills. Would you give me just a minute, Sheriff? There are a lot of people that have questions." Sheriff Clarke said, "I know. I'm here to help. I'm here to help seniors celebrate their day. There's an appropriate process for that. It's to go through my public information officer." Mr. Polson tried that 5 times, in fact, since February 28th of this year. The first 4 times, the sheriff's spokesperson ignored the request. The 5th time she wrote, the sheriff will not be doing an interview without explaining why. Sheriff Clarke told Polson that his information officer has responded. She may not have responded in the way that you like, but she did respond, okay? Polson then said, "Is there a reason that you don't want to talk about that incident?" Sheriff Clarke then said, "Look, there's a courtesy that goes along with being a reporter. There is a professionalism. Apparently you don't get it, okay? This is an event to honor seniors, and that's why I am here today, to give them their respect, and you ought to do the same thing." Yeah, well, Sheriff Clarke, maybe you ought to respect the press and consent to an interview so that you can explain your actions. That's called professionalism. That's called courtesy. But that's something that you know nothing about. Again, Mr. Polson asked multiple times for a sit-down interview. Polson told Clarke that he would walk away if he would agree to do an interview, as he had in the past on other matters. Once again, Sheriff Clarke declined. Mr. Polson said, "I just want to know if you believe the arrest of Tanya Weicker was appropriate under the circumstances. As for Deputy Quills, at the time of the crash, which was in 2013, he was treated and released for minor injuries. He has yet to come back to work, and that was 3 years ago." The attorney representing his workers' compensation case told Fox News that according to his doctors, he is disabled and cannot perform his duties, at least for a while. Okay, so Sheriff Clarke is, number one, a liar. He's an abuser of authority. He's a hider of evidence. He's a piece of shit rat bastard that is looking for cover from his cohorts in the media, i.e. Fox News, because they always have this guy on, and you know damn well that the Fox News station out of Milwaukee informed them of what was going on here, and yet and still, they still have this piece of shit that's a poor excuse for a human being, let alone a police officer, to appear on their shows only because they know that he's going to denigrate black people, he's going to denigrate the Black Lives Matter movement, and he's going to attack the Democrats and specifically Obama. The next time this motherfucker appears on TV, hopefully somebody will have the balls to question him about the cover-up that he's participating in. I hope that the trial for the civil rights violation proceeds promptly, and I don't know if there is any type of criminal sanction, which I hope that there is, and that this guy is found guilty and he's put in the hoosgow along with all the rest of the criminals such as himself. Prick. I wanted to add this clip from the Don Lemon interview with coon ass Grecian formula goatee dying Sheriff David Clarke. I'm going to play the entire clip, which is about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to comment on it. Here we go.
In Cleveland, you're set to speak tomorrow night, and again, all I want to do is have a conversation. I can't have a conversation with you if we're both talking at the same time. What it sounds like to me is that you're accusing me of violence and supporting something, a narrative that I'm not necessarily in support of. And if that's what you're accusing me of violence, then you can leave. That's not true. I don't support violence of any type against police officers, against anyone. So if you're accusing me of that, then you're welcome to leave. But if you want to have a conversation, I am more than willing to welcome a conversation with you. I don't disagree with you about there's a narrative across the country that could be harming police officers. But we don't know right now, as someone who's in law enforcement, if that was the actual cause of it. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. Do we know that generally the American law enforcement officers are racist? Do we know this?
Go on.
I ask a question.
Do I know American general law enforcement are racist? I don't think anyone is accusing. If you're insinuating that people are accusing or saying that law enforcement across this country as a whole are racist, then your assumption is wrong.
First of all, this whole anti-police rhetoric is based on a lie. There is no data, and you know this, there is no data, there is no research that proves any of that nonsense. None. Even
you'd have to be more specific about what data and what nonsense you're talking about.
That law enforcement officers treat black males different than white males in policing in these urban
settings.
There is
data.
There is not data.
The president spoke about it. Cedric Alexander,
the president has been lying about it. He said it again the other day when he said black males are 2 times more likely to be shot by a law enforcement officer than white males. Don, that is a lie.
That is not a lie.
It is a lie.
Yeah.
Show me.
Research.
Show me.
The research that we have from the Washington Post.
The Washington Post debunked that nonsense.
There's also research.
He also said this time.
There's also research.
He continues.
A Harvard professor that also showed that black people are treated more aggressively by police officers.
No, you are wrong in your interpretation of that Harvard study, because I read the study. That's not what he said. He said he was surprised to find
that in shootings of the most most severe in shootings that he found no evidence that there was a difference. Also, it should be noted that that study was a very small sampling of police departments across the country. Many people did not find it credible, but it is also interesting that in that research, he found that blacks were treated differently when it came to aggressive policing, but for the most egregious shootings, he found no difference. That's what that study showed.
Well, based on what? Just generally? Or are we talking about high crime areas? Are we talking about police officers being under attack? Because let's go back to where this whole thing started in Ferguson, Missouri. The lie was hands up, don't
lumping
shoot.
a whole bunch of things into one. If we
Okay.
can do one specific
That's
thing,
where this whole phony movement started. It started out as hands up,
talking
don't
about
shoot.
Black Lives Matter.
Right.
Okay. So if you want to, you would need to speak to someone who is a member of Black Lives Matter about whether they have perpetrated a fraud on the American people. That's up to Black Lives Matter. That's not me. I'm neither a member of Black Lives Matter, I'm either a supporter or someone who doesn't support them. I simply report on Black Lives Matter.
Do you condemn the anti-police rhetoric coming from this hateful ideology?
As a journalist sitting here on television, I don't have to condemn anyone, anything. That is something that
Well,
you
I
should
do.
ask
Well, I
other
do.
people around the country.
I
that it's their
condemn
jobs to condemn
just
that.
like I condemn the
Just report
hateful
that.
ideology out of groups like the KKK. All right? I condemn it. There is no place in American discourse for that sort of vile, vitriolic hate coming out of this ideology. This has fueled and fanned the flames of this anger toward the American police officer. There's only one group in America, one time, that truly cares about the lives of black people in these urban ghettos, and it's the American police officer who goes down there on a daily basis, puts their life on the line to protect who? Black people. So when you say we just want to have a
Put their lives on
conversation,
the lines to affect-
let's
to
have
protect
a
all people.
conversation about the black-on-black crime, which kills more black males, which is more of a threat to any black male in the United States than a law enforcement officer.
Sheriff. Yes, that's a different conversation.
All right, so that's the interview that this guy had,
Your mortgage.
Sheriff David Clarke had with Don Lemon. And let me move this. That's a conversation that this guy had with Don Lemon, and he was moving around so much that Don really wasn't able to pin him down, but I am. First of all, he claims there's no data on police officers abusing black people. That's a bunch of bullshit. There's data from various cities, including Cleveland initially, where they are now under a Department of Justice consent decree, which they tried to worm out of after the report came out, after the Mike Brown, after the Tamir Rice shooting occurred. That's when the data was released. The city of Cleveland was already under investigation at that time because of civil rights violations, discrimination, and straight out racism. So after Tamir Rice got shot and the officers were let off by that corrupt district attorney, it was at that point that the DOJ report on Cleveland was released. And it's my firm belief that if that report had been released before those officers were brought before the grand jury, they would have been indicted and convicted. Okay, Ferguson. Mr. Clarke claims that there was a phony narrative as far as Mike Brown being shot, hands up, hands down. Okay, that's between you and your own opinion. Okay, I have my opinion on it. I'm going to leave that there. But when the DOJ came in and took a look at the policies and the police department in Ferguson, they found that the black population in Ferguson was targeted. And I mean, the targeting was ridiculous. And even their criminal justice system, as far as people being able to satisfy issues they had on warrants, tickets, etc., the process was made so cumbersome as to increase the amount of monies that people had to pay in order to satisfy speeding tickets, fines, warrants, etc. It was also found that excuse me, black people, motorists, even if you didn't live in a town, black motorists were targeted by the Ferguson Police Department. You could do your own research, but the report on Cleveland and Ferguson is out there. Now, let's talk about Baltimore. The statistics are definitely out there on Baltimore, and I'm currently doing videos outlining the full report, and hopefully I'll be finished with that sometime within the next day or so. But the statistics are out there. So Mr. Clarke, you are a liar. You basically want to ignore everything unless somebody puts a piece of paper in front of you, and you probably would claim that you didn't have time to read the paper, or that you couldn't read, because the information is out there. Now, as far as that Harvard study that he referred to, he opened the door on that Harvard study, and then when Don went after him with the specifics of that study, he then disputed it. And by the way, that study was from such a small sample size as not to be credible by most people. This guy has gotten a hard-on for the Black Lives Matter movement, but he's never spoken with them. He's taken crap off of Fox News, and because they have a hard-on for him as well, and they love him because he runs with the bullshit that they're reporting. Now, I'm that upset that this guy is basically just a tool for the right, specifically Fox News, but he's got his own individual agenda. He needs to stop. I would love for someone to have a copy of that Department of Justice report on the Baltimore City Police Department, put it in his face, and then ask him if those facts didn't document the fact that the black community is under attack by various police departments throughout the country. This guy is a piece of work.